Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Talking About My Generation. My name is Harsh Mal, and a very happy Teachers' Day to all our teachers and mentors whose guidance has helped shape so much in each of our lives. There was a lovely moment on our show last week where many of you in the audience were commenting with tributes to your teachers. And if you're joining us for the first time, or even if you would like to reshare, please tell us in the comments below about a teacher who you remember fondly and whose lessons you are grateful for. For me, that person was my marketing teacher in college, Professor Raj, who, by picking on me in class with the hardest questions, helped me move past my fear of speaking in front of a large group of people. During the first 6 episodes of TAMG, as we like to call this show, we've explored a range of different issues from shopping, entertainment, starting up, and money. So for today's episode, we've picked a new but very relevant theme for this intergenerational show, family business. And to talk about this, I would like to welcome my guests today, Deepa Soman and her daughter, Rhea. Hi, Deepa auntie. Hi, Rhea.
Hey, hi, Harsh. How are you?
Good.
Hi, Ria.
Rhea, you're moving to Goa soon to work from there for a little while. I am so jealous. Are you all set for the move? Rhea, I think you might be on mute. So
Yes, thanks, Harsh. And yeah, getting set. So there's still some time. Yeah.
good luck with that. Deepa auntie, I know that in way back in 92, you moved to the seaside as well, but all the way to Jamaica in the Caribbean. So that said, are you a little envious that Rhea now is the one who gets to make that escape?
Yes, I think we're all very partial to the surf and the sun and the sea.
Yeah, that sounds like paradise, honestly. I want to tell our audience a little bit about the Somans. Deepa is the founder and CEO of Lumiere Business Solutions, a boutique research, consulting, and design firm with a very distinctive identity and philosophy. 2.5 years ago, her daughter Rhea stepped into Lumiere to kickstart their new design practice. And today, we are going to hear from them their story of how they learned to work together as colleagues to take Lumiere to the next level. If you haven't already done so, please read Rhea's column on this topic on the Founding Fuel website, where she talks about her experience of joining the family business. And it also includes her mom's reaction via an audiogram. Stick around at the end of today's show because we have an important update and an exciting announcement for you. But for now, over to Deepa and Rhea Soman. Take it away.
Hey, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. And Harsh, thanks for that lovely introduction and for having us here. You mentioned Jamaica, and Jamaica is doubly special because that's where Rhea was born, and that's where Lumiere was born too. So we went away to Jamaica in 93 because I thought that would be the place I'd want to spend 2 years of my career break and raise my 6-month-old baby, Rahul. I didn't know at that time that I wanted to raise a baby and work. And that insight actually led me to the idea of Lumiere.
So today we're going to discuss a very exciting topic, and we're going to talk about how it is to be family and colleagues together. So we are broadly going to talk about 3 buckets, and that is learning together, leadership, and balancing home and work.
So, Ria, you sent us your resume and link to your portfolio 2.5 years ago. What made you do that?
So honestly, it was your push, I think, when you told me to travel alone after college. And even I think after my 12th standard, both you and my father were keen that I take a year gap. And I ended up doing that after college. And going to Israel was really eye-opening in terms of experiencing entrepreneurship. There are a lot of family businesses there, and I got the chance to join some of them for their Sabbath on Friday, where the family really sits together. So I thought that it would be a great opportunity to actually explore Lumiere, something I'd really not considered before that.
Yeah.
So you have always been a strong believer of very all-rounded education and experiential learning. What's actually triggered that?
Yeah, I think, Ria, when you're a parent and you discover you're observing your child, you kind of use the same tactics and techniques that you worked with your first child, especially when it's the second child, right? So I was like very comfortable reading books to Rahul, reading out, doing phonics cards. And I discovered very early that, that really didn't hold your attention. And that's really when we saw that you were doing so much more with art, working with your hands. You learn to tie your shoelaces like super, super early. And today, actually, on Teachers' Day, I want to give a shout out to that teacher that I want to really acknowledge. That's Bahar Ma'am, your art teacher. And she took such a keen interest in you. And when I met her saying, since Riya is so talented, should we have her go to an art class? And she was so clear. She said, no, let her just develop her own style. She doesn't need to join any art class until she's ready to write her intermediate art exam. And I also remember that one time, I think Miss must have been just KG. You confidently came home after your English worksheet saying you drew your exam very well. These are clues. And that worksheet that was sent home, I remember you had drawn this beautiful apple, colored it red, it was all well proportioned. And instead of spelling apple, that's what you'd done. What was it like for you in school?
So discovering learning disability was actually quite shocking to me. And I remember both you and Baba were not that surprised. I was much more surprised at that time. Today, I would really call it a challenge as well as a gift because I did get very early intervention into remedial, which taught me how to learn. It wasn't as much about learning what to learn, but how do you learn differently. So this really gave me a different perspective. I really think you all also pushed me to intern at St. Jude around that time. And I remember meeting this brilliant child who was probably much younger than me. And she was gifted in math. And I remember telling her mom that you have to send her to a school that really helps her access it and facilitates her. And she really came up to me and said, good education in India is really a privilege and a luxury. And this made me value early intervention a lot and the remedial that I got at the time. And I have to thank you and Baba for that.
Thank you for saying that. Actually, the highlight of growing up, and I say this very thoughtfully, that it was really also growing up with you and Rahul. And I think the part you mentioned about experiential learning and doing alternate, doing additional things, because we made that conscious choice, right, to come to India from Jamaica. And we knew that here it was going to be a lot more about academics and exams and, the classical stuff. And I think we were very clear even then that we must do things together and do activities together. So even our piano classes, Spanish, doing Spanish class, learning golf, and even for you all to discover that I could be the bottom of the class between you, Rahul, and me, right? So I think we did put a lot of emphasis on play because that's great for creativity, that's great for building confidence when you get good at something. Also, I like the part of putting in that routine and that daily practice because that for me is also very important, the discipline, and it's good for building leadership. So
So actually now I think we should ask a question to the audience. So have you all
yeah,
ever
why
thought
not?
of working with a family member? And if yes, no, why not? And let us jump to our next segment and come back to the answers too. So let's talk about leadership. What were some of your apprehensions as a leader and as a mom when I joined Lumiere?
So, I don't know, Ria, but, and, because I think both of us didn't really take the bull by the horns, these were more like sensing stuff. So I kind of sensed that little undercurrent of discomfort in the early days. We were trying to do like a little bit of, office, formal and, like, should I say Pam? Should I say Mama? I think maybe those were thoughts going on in your mind. I don't know. But it was a little, I think, a little odd, perhaps. And that was maybe just we reading each other or maybe reading too much into it. I also remember that time, when that early project management workshop that we were doing, where there were all these processes and there were these case studies to be
Yeah.
worked. And I remember at that time I was working downstairs because I was between the workshop and finishing a deliverable. And I was out meeting somebody, I don't remember. And you came up to me and you said, what's the point? Why are we doing this? Because research projects are really structured so differently from design projects. So, that whole thing of seeing research, design separate, and it was a little worrisome and unsettling that maybe we were not on the same page. And I don't know. But what did you feel about joining and working with the team?
So now that you remind me, I really remember that workshop very well, and I think we found such a beautiful common ground over the time, and we have put in a lovely system together. Honestly, initially, I think I did have some apprehension. I did should I not for about 2 months before talking to you about joining Lumiere. I felt okay. This is this big shadow. I'm going to walk under as well initially. I think a lot
Really?
of it was in my head, and there was this need. Okay, I need to work very, very, very hard,
Yeah.
and which definitely is a must for anyone. But I realized today that it really was me telling myself and nothing else. So how did you work so beautifully with a team? So you tell me a little more about how you chose your team.
Yeah, so actually it just goes back to, starting Lumiere. I was 29 when I started, right? Just had, Rahul was what, 3.5, 4, you were like really small, 9 months old. And I think even those little times, because it was all targeted for women professionals to come back to work, I was pretty much looking at people like me who had probably taken a break from work. And I remember kind of having this roving eye, looking at my target group. So whether it was outside school or at the gym or at the supermarket, you kind of spot someone looking like half professional, or just basically the way they talked or conducted themselves, and you kind of just went up to them and say, man, do you work, or where do you work, or something like that, and then strike up a conversation. Little things like chat up with some friends and then say, there's something that we do, or find out about their day, maybe give them a cassette to work with so that they can do a transcript. And then I was looking for thoroughness, quality. So I think that was one piece. So it was also about giving people that little sense that maybe you can structure your day in such a way, maybe you'll enjoy doing certain things. That was one part. And the second part was really about spotting potential. So like, you interact with somebody and then you pick up things like, oh, so and so is really having a great, like, they're speaking very well, for instance, they can really communicate nicely. And I remember one, I must tell you this. So there was one research that we were doing, and we were I started off, I did the moderation, and I was very hell-bent that, and very clear that the next moderation, the next interview onwards, I was going to ask her to do it. And she was like, I had told her this before, but obviously she didn't know how soon she was going to come into it. So very much after, because I know she was very meticulous, well prepared, so I didn't have any qualms of telling her, give it a shot. And I remember suddenly there was like this whole becoming very teary, and will I be able to do it? And I said, well, whenever you're ready and you're ready to start talking, we'll start. And she said, no, maybe you do this one. And I said, no, let the respondent wait, and whenever you can hold yourself together, we'll start. So I think this, I really call it tough love, because she was extremely afraid. She broke down, but I was 100% sure she would do it. And obviously, I mean, if she faltered, I was there to, sort of step in. So I think really,
Wow.
that's the tough love work. So
I think I remember you telling me this story.
yeah. And, I think even when you came to, when we conceptualized this idea and we said we'll do design lab, we'll incubate it somewhere within Lumiere. you're a very different person when it comes to leading, and I kind of felt that your leadership style might be different from mine and maybe the prevailing culture at Lumiere. I don't know, because so did you kind of see that like an advantage or a challenge? I mean, just let's explore this part.
So I think I was learning a lot by observing y'all every day. And of course, one thing that I have my own ground as well. So that was also very helpful. And I could always come to y'all for any advice. So I
Yeah,
really think a lot of leading for me personally is about collaboration and teamwork. And I think building our design team was a crucial part of this process. So even having our feedback and ideation together, and every week we'll have multiple discussions. And I think the team really challenges me every day, and overall we challenge each other.
yeah,
And I think it really comes out with all of us being winners and our own heroes. And
yeah,
even in design school, we have a jury system, which is an open jury. So you're going to
okay,
be judged by a lot of people. So not taking it in a defensive way at all, it's a lot more open. And okay, yet at the end of the day, I have to choose which inputs do I pick up and what is the most relevant to me. And that freedom is always given. So, and which I continue to get here. What is what do you think are some of our similarities in this domain?
yeah. I mean, first of all, I must say that the similarities are now, because you're 24 and I'm 54, so I can see the similarities now. But let me tell you, I was not so like how you are so proactive. Give me feedback. You're critic. You're so. I think that's also probably, like you say, the education or the your background, which is when you in design school, where things get the jury. You're always sort of saying that I'm creating something for a client. So there is a certain objectivity that you're trained, and feedback is always good because it allows you to iterate and build. I think I kind of discovered that fairly late in life. So today, that avatar has come through a lot of trial and error, through a lot of mistakes. But I kind of see that at an early age, younger people, when they come and ask for feedback, I think it's a big leg, like a leg up. Yeah, about similarities, I think both of us can be fairly calm and patient, especially when there is like crises or something. We're quite, we're kind of get in charge, but while being very calm. I think that's fairly similar. And yeah, and I think both of us are a little happier giving positive feedback. I think we're like more liking, we love developing people. We don't like conflict too much. It kind of is a little hard for us to confront. I think that's something that I uh, so that little bit of that avoidance style, maybe, I think. uh,
Where we need Baba to come and tell us, okay, now face this.
and what do you
So
think are
I
our
think
differences?
I do think one major difference is you put so much pressure on yourself, Mama. And I think sometimes you just stress yourself out. But that's a good thing as well. So I think you're much more of a perfectionist than me. And
uh,
yeah, that I think is a difference.
but what I marvel, Ria, is also how I can kind of see those markers. When the way there's so much more of an open conversation. We are not sort of we are not getting into any passive aggressive. Like initially, I think we would just, both of us, just go back, like hold back, because we didn't want to upset the other, but at least there was something. But I think one of the things that I think is a huge amount of confidence and trust in each other, in knowing that we'll kind of, handhold, we'll not let each other down. So I think the big cementing of trust, I think that's really huge. I remember the time, and I think you will remember it also, when I was away in Nepal, and then suddenly we were supposed to come back and go for a meeting together, and the client wanted to change dates, and you went for that client pitch alone, and nobody was there to actually go with you. I think just two of you, one person, someone went with you. I don't remember. How was it? I mean, do you remember that? Because for me, that was powerful.
Yeah, I actually remember that really well. It was a media client, and I did have Disha and Rohan with me who joined me. And for that meeting, and we were pitching an exhibition design. And I remember the night before, Disha and I sat and we really scrapped our presentation, and we drew out a pitch on a chart paper, a really long chart paper, and we presented that on the table. We rolled it out on the long conference table, and it landed so well with the client that they insisted that they keep the chart. So, and it was a confidence booster for us also. And I have to thank you all for letting us take that risk as well.
In fact, Ria, you'll remember that point when you came in for that first meeting after you sent that, your CV. You said, "I really see a place where I can add value." So that whole homework, and I don't know, in the very first year, actually, Lumiere, the design labs contributed to 30% of the revenues, and at this, for me, that was like, for you itself, I mean, which you were second guessing, you were doubting, but that itself should tell you that you came with the idea of adding value, and that's exactly what happened. So
So actually now let's bring that to the audience itself. So if you were a team, you were supposed to team up with any family member, who would it be and why? And how would you make it work?
so they should probably send their comments, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we should just build on our third topic, which is working together as a family.
So Lumiere has always been a family to you. Like I remember when the first person who joined the team in the early team days, they quit, and you were quite upset. What exactly happened there?
Yeah, I think it was, all the lines were very blurry for me, Ria. So like Deepa Soman was mixed up with Lumiere, and I think I kind of didn't have that uh, sort of coming through very clearly in my mind. And I kind of believe that, if there's a team member and a close friend that quits, I kind of saw this almost as like I was personalizing the issue. Maybe there were signs, maybe things that I had not missed and observed earlier. Maybe I had, it was kind of like I felt like it was a personal failure. So it was that whole thing of putting yourself in the center. So I think that was like an early stage fallacy. I remember crying that whole night, but it taught me a lot. And the subsequent times, what had happened was I saw that there's a lot more detachment. One was objective. In fact, one was much more proactive, because it's also about, somewhere when you think that you can do something to also you don't want to let go of that friendship, or that you don't want the relationship to be hurt. Today I understand that you can keep that separate, you can remain friends, because that's something for me, family and friends are for keeps. And at Lumiere, like we have a concept of no farewells. So once a Lumierite, always a Lumierite. So I think that comes from that piece of friends and family, and that's why, in fact, if you remember, our community used to be called Lumiere Family for a long time till we changed it to Lumiere World. So
Yeah, I think that was a very interesting point. And you've always told both my brother Rahul and me that everything is temporary. So don't get too attached. And
yeah,
we even today are so encouraging of team members transitioning to another phase in their career.
yes,
It's been a really interesting observation. You always mentor. It's a bigger picture, and I think we do it so effortlessly and graciously.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even the point you mentioned about working with family, I think what has made it easier is because you guys have, come in and you have completely believed in the Lumiere core purpose and values. See, if there was a mismatch over there, maybe it would have been hard. But how we work, what we do, all of that is fairly flexible, right? So everybody comes with their own talents, and that's great. So. It's been superb. I think I just love it. So
So that also has its challenges. So let us also talk a little bit about those. And I think really ever since we were young, you have always made us a part of the company conversations, or we were around, we were listening. And So home becomes office too, and that is something that does happen. There are weekends where I will wonder, okay, you go home on a Sunday for lunch and you end up discussing work, and you
You know.
wonder, okay, today was my weekend. And I think we balanced it out very well with a routine. Like having chai with my grandfather in the evening is really sacrosanct. So that's really about balancing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe we should call Harshan now, I think.
Thanks. Thank you both. That was such a great chat. I really admire how both of you can be so frank and transparent while being introspective and honestly assessing your own challenges in your life and career. I think I think all of us can take inspiration from that. And as you can see, your conversations and questions for the audience have inspired so many great responses. So let's flip the board and bring some of our audience questions to you. But first, a question from me for both of you. So, Rhea, I'll come to you first. Imagine an alternate universe in which you are the founder of your own company and you're joined by your mom. Is your relationship any different in that universe?
So very honestly, I don't think so, because the mother-daughter relationship is also at the core, and like Mama rightly put, we are at the end of the day we are the same people, may it be at office or at home. We are not trying to be somebody else. So I really don't think that relationship would be very different. Yeah, what do you think?
So I would be a little scared working for you, Ria, because I'm a little scared because you may not say it, but I think I see that expression of yours become so serious and like driving, and I would kind of be a little think, oh, have I displeased her, or am I would be a little second guessing.
So we actually have a question from our audience that sort of goes along the same thread. So Deepa, I'll come to you with this question, which is,
Yeah.
so Charles says, one question for Deepa. If my daughter and I start working, one of us will burn the place down, like tomorrow. So, so for you as a leader, how tough was it to sort of hit the rhythm in terms of working with your daughter?
See, I think what actually helped was, first of all, everything was, I was really, we were not living in the same home, right? So in that sense, after work, we could choose not to talk with each other. So that was one respite. We didn't have to sort of be in the same physical space. So we did have a lot of air. The second thing is, I think it's also about style. So for us, it would be like we would kind of retreat into a shell, and I'll kind of get all my thoughts in order before I speak. So it wouldn't be like an argument, or a like, it's not like butting heads literally, but it would kind of be in this whole thing of I need to sort of get my head right to talk. But like the rhythm that you talk about, I think a lot of it was Charles, also coming out of the fact that I kept getting, with every client, positive feedback. I kind of kept respecting. So while I kind of said, okay, she's learning, but so the space at which she was able to, because she was obviously the stepping into big boots, right? So I also was very protective in that sense, saying that they shouldn't feel like compare, or what would it do to her, or how would she feel about it. And I think at some deep level there was also that feeling a little protective. So I kind of became more and more and more confident, because within I would say literally months, every time consistently I got stuff like, whether it was about ownership, or whether it was like, her can do, or just going to the last minute to do what was for the best. And I remember like acute time pressures, big deliverables, and kind of she was unfazed. And I think that stamina that I saw was probably something that got developed at design school. I didn't see that as a mother. I didn't know that part, though I knew she was doing like projects and stuff. So to cut a long story short, I think it's just the discovery. I think we went with that whole space of wanting to explore.
No, that's great. But I actually want to push a little further. You both of you talk about positive feedback. You talked about it in your chat, Deepa, and you just mentioned it right now. But Rhea, I'm going to ask you this question, which is, tell me about how you approach criticism, receiving it, but more importantly, providing it. I mean, how do you navigate constructive workplace criticism, especially when the person you're addressing is your mom?
Okay, that's a good question. So I really think when it comes to criticism and feedback, a lot of it is about listening with a very open mind. And I think both of us became much better listeners to each other. And I've understood, like Mama said, she has gotten to know a very different side of me. And there's a level of discovery that's happening. And that also applies to anybody we work with. Criticism is not the end, right? So it's like if I may quote my dad, it's when the shit hits the fan, it can only get better. So and that's really how you take it, and you can only do better with criticism.
Yeah, I agree. I am conscious of the time. I think we can take one more question from the audience, which is this is for both of you. Deepa Aunty, you can go first. And Abha asks, what happens if you end up disagreeing completely? You know, do you choose one person's side or do you agree to disagree?
So yes, so there are times, for example, I'll give you a situation just around COVID when we had a leadership meeting and we were trying to see what is it that we should do about how long can we sustain teams, and that was, I remember, early April conversation, and so we were having this call and discussion, and Ria's thought somewhere was, maybe we can't carry so many people. So that was a thought, and that was a whole sort of a concern. And my whole thought was, no way. I mean, I don't think we could do that. So we discussed it, and I think we both very respectfully heard each other's views. It wasn't like accusing or anything. And I think that discussion, and I must give credit, because we kind of went through that whole process and actually came to a very good middle ground, Abha, that we've been able to sort of defer salaries. We did have, and we also gave people an option, saying that if they want to take time off or if they want to move as an associate, they could have those options. If they want to work out, they renegotiate their terms where then they'll only work half part-time. So we kind of gave them the freedom, and at the same time, because these were the two. This was one specific instance I can tell you where both of us were at two ends of the spectrum, where it came to what we do with the team and carrying them during the lockdown. Because 5 months we really didn't have too much work, so it was like just about at 40% levels.
Yeah, I can imagine it must be challenging. To our audience, if you have a question for the Somans that hasn't been answered yet, don't worry. Both of them will join us to continue the conversation over on Founding Fuel's Slack channel, where they will not only answer your questions, but also elaborate on some of the themes that, say, Rhea brought up in her column published earlier this week. For example, what inspired the initial idea of setting up Lumiere as an all-women's organization? I'm looking forward to reading more about that. So please join us on our Slack channel, the details of which are shared here below. With this episode, which was our 7th, we bring the curtains down on season 1 of Talking About My Generation. And it's been an exciting ride in ways that we couldn't have imagined when the concept was still in paper. And we are fortunate to have had your support along the way. So a big thank you to not only the Somans to come on as guests today, but all of you in our audience. For now, we are planning to take a 2-episode break to recharge ourselves, take stock, and come back with an exciting new lineup of guests. We open season 2 of Talking About My Generation on Saturday, September 26th with renowned chef and entrepreneur Sanjeev Kapoor and his daughter Rachita. Between them, they will discuss the future of home kitchens. The pandemic has clearly affected our relationship with Ghar Ka Khana. I am acutely aware of this personally, and given rise to some really interesting trends and innovation. So make sure that you don't miss this one. Please block your calendars on the evening of September 26th. That's 7:30 p.m. India time. And this break is as great a time as any for you to go through the interesting array of themes from our past episodes. We've created a playlist of these episodes for you on YouTube to watch them and share them. And there's also an archive of the columns on Founding Fuel. We'll share the links here on Facebook, on our Slack channel. And if you've registered for our popular Founding Fuel daily newsletter, we will share it by email. So see you in a few weeks. A big thank you to Deepa and Rhea Soman for an amazing show today. And until we see you next time, take care and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.